Did you know that India, a land steeped in ancient spirituality and home to one of the oldest civilizations on Earth, has been playing a crucial, yet hidden, role in God's divine plan for humanity? The spiritual legacy of this vast nation, with its intricate mosaic of religions and deep-rooted traditions, is not merely a distant historical curiosity, but a vital piece in the unfolding of biblical prophecy. For thousands of years, this connection has been hiding in plain sight, quietly interwoven into the fabric of the Bible's grand narrative. Could it be that India, often seen as separate from the biblical world, holds a key to future events foretold in Scripture? And what if its role is far greater than we've ever imagined, an essential link in the ultimate fulfillment of prophecy? The answers may challenge everything you thought you knew about biblical history and the divine plan that stretches beyond borders and across millennia. You might be thinking, how can India be in the Bible if it's never mentioned by name? You see, the Bible doesn't always name every place or people directly. It often speaks in broad strokes, referencing ancient nations that extend beyond the familiar territories of the Middle East. Many of these nations, like the descendants of Noah's sons, traveled and settled far beyond what we traditionally imagine. And India's role in this narrative may have been there all along, waiting to be discovered. Stay tuned as we embark on this journey of exploration. What we will uncover may forever change your understanding of how India fits into the grand narrative of biblical prophecy, revealing a deeper, more profound connection than ever imagined. In the vast landscape of biblical geography, there lies a fascinating connection between the Bible and India, a connection often overlooked. India, though distant from the heart of the biblical narrative, is subtly referenced through its association with neighboring empires and regions. For instance, during the reign of Ahasuerus, the Persian Empire, as described in the Book of Esther, extended its borders to include lands near India. Another intriguing reference comes from the accounts of King Solomon's navy in 1 Kings chapter 9 verse 26 to 27. The ships of Solomon set sail to a land called Ophir, a place rich in gold and precious goods. Scholars have long debated the location of Ophir, and many now believe it to have been a port in ancient India. The word Sophir, derived from Coptic, directly translates to India, supporting this connection. Gold, one of the many riches brought back by Solomon's fleet, was abundant in India, making it a logical source for the wealth described in the scriptures. For its people, India's connection to the Bible likely begins with the descendants of Noah after the flood. The Bible gives us a genealogy known as the Table of Nations in Genesis 10, detailing how the earth was repopulated after the flood. One of Noah's sons, Japheth, is said to be the ancestor of many Gentile nations, particularly those spreading across Europe and Asia. Some biblical scholars link the descendants of Japheth, especially through his son Javan, to the Indo-European peoples, which includes those who would later inhabit India. This connection places India within the biblical framework right from the beginning, as part of the dispersion of nations after the flood. India's ancient civilization, known for its advanced culture, spirituality, and trade, may have been indirectly involved in the early biblical world through trade routes mentioned in the Bible, such as Solomon's legendary wealth, possibly connected to spices, gems, and gold that originated from India. 1 Kings chapter 10 verse 22. Now, let's fast forward to one of the most intriguing aspects of India's biblical connection, the story of the Apostle Thomas. Thomas, one of Jesus' 12 apostles, famously known for doubting the resurrection until he touched Christ's wounds, embarked on a bold journey after Jesus' ascension, reaching as far as the Indian subcontinent. According to Christian, Thomas arrived in India around AD 52, landing on the shores of Kerala in the south. This wasn't just an ordinary missionary journey. Thomas wasn't spreading the gospel to neighboring lands, but crossed oceans, reaching a land deeply entrenched in ancient spiritual practices like Hinduism, Jainism, and Buddhism. The Apostle Thomas is credited with establishing some of the earliest Christian communities in India, particularly the Marthoma Christians of Kerala, who claimed direct descent from his missionary work. This means India was one of the first countries to hear the good news of Jesus Christ, long before many parts of Europe even embraced the faith. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Did Thomas' journey to India fulfill an unspoken part of Jesus' Great Commission to take the gospel to the ends of the earth? When Jesus gave his disciples the command in Matthew chapter 28 verse 19 and 20, India was seen as the edge of the known world, a mysterious distant land rich in knowledge and spirituality. By reaching India, Thomas may have symbolically fulfilled the mission to spread the gospel far beyond the borders of Israel and Rome. But what if I told you that some traditions suggest Jesus himself may have visited India? While this idea is not supported by the Bible, it finds roots in apocryphal texts and Eastern traditions. The so-called lost years of Jesus, those years not detailed in the New Testament, are said by some sources to include travels to the East, particularly India, where he learned spiritual wisdom before beginning his public ministry. While this narrative is not part of canonical scripture, it has persisted in Christian and Indian tradition for centuries. Could it be that India, a land known for its spirituality and deep philosophical wisdom, played a mysterious role in shaping the understanding of divine teachings? Perhaps it is not mere coincidence that one of Jesus' closest disciples, Thomas, brought the message of Christ to this very land. India, with its profound religious history, has been a spiritual battleground for millennia. Even today, it is home to Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, Sikhism, and Christianity, among others. But India's place in biblical prophecy is often overlooked. Some theologians and scholars believe that India's spiritual diversity positions it as a key player in the ultimate fulfillment of the Great Commission, the spread of the gospel to every corner of the earth before the end comes. In Matthew 24 verse 14 and in Revelation 7 verse 9, we are told of a great multitude from every nation, tribe, people, and language standing before the throne of God. Imagine India, a nation with over 2,000 distinct people groups and hundreds of languages, represented in this vision. Could India's incredible diversity and vast population mean that it will be one of the final harvest fields before the end times? India's religious landscape, though diverse, has historically resisted the widespread embrace of Christianity. Yet in the face of opposition, the Christian faith has not only survived, but thrived in certain regions. The Mar Thoma Christians and the explosive growth of Christianity in northeastern India testify to this resilience. While Thomas sowed the first seeds of Christianity in India, it wasn't until the age of European colonialism that Christianity spread more widely. The Portuguese arrived in the 16th century, followed by Dutch and British missionaries. While colonialism had a complex and often negative impact on India's people and culture, it also brought the gospel to many who had never heard it before. The British missionary movement, led by figures like William Carey, established schools, translated the Bible into Indian languages, and spread the message of Christ across the subcontinent. Yet India remained a land where Christianity coexisted with other powerful religious traditions like Hinduism, Islam, and Sikhism. But the question remains, could India play a pivotal role in the end times? While biblical prophecy does not explicitly name India, its spiritual significance and growing global influence suggest that it could be central to future world events. In fact, India is home to one of the largest populations of unreached people groups, making it a critical mission field. India's spiritual diversity makes it a land of intense spiritual warfare. The Bible often speaks of nations being judged based on their response to God's truth, and India, as a nation that has long embraced a multitude of gods, may stand at a crossroads. Will it rise as a nation that embraces the gospel, or will it continue to resist as it has for centuries? In the book of Revelation, the final judgment will see people from every tribe, tongue, and nation, either standing with Christ or against him. India, with its billion-plus people, will surely play a part in this final reckoning. India, a land rich in history and spiritual traditions, stands as both an ancient mystery and a future key in God's prophetic plan. From its deep-rooted connections in biblical history to its role as one of the earliest receivers of the gospel, India is woven into the fabric of God's redemptive story. As we move closer to the fulfillment of the Great Commission and the end times, the role of India may become more evident. The spiritual battles that rage across this nation are not just cultural or political, they are part of a much larger, divine plan. Could India, the land of many gods, one day turn to the one true God? Could it be a pivotal player in the final harvest of souls before the return of Christ? As we look to the future, one thing is clear: God has a plan for every nation, and India is no exception. The time to watch, pray, and engage with India's place in prophecy is now. Stay tuned to Discipleship Biblical Narratives, where we uncover profound truths about how modern nations are intricately woven into God's ultimate plan for humanity. While the ancient scriptures may seem distant, they hold keys that reveal the roles contemporary nations are playing today. Nations we read about in the Bible, though sometimes veiled by time and history, still have a place in the unfolding story of prophecy. Our world is changing rapidly, and the political, social, and spiritual landscapes are shifting in ways that echo the warnings and promises of biblical prophecy. Could it be that the actions of governments, the rise and fall of leaders, and the shifting alliances of modern nations are all part of a divine orchestration foretold thousands of years ago? At Discipleship Biblical Narratives, we don't just study scripture, we explore how the living word speaks to today's global events. We delve into how nations like the US, Russia, China, Israel, and even countries often overlooked in biblical discussions, such as India and those of the Middle East, might be fulfilling their prophetic roles. Each episode unpacks the connections between ancient texts and current events, shedding light on how these nations are advancing God's ultimate plan for the future. By examining historical patterns, prophetic insights, and current geopolitical developments, we seek to understand how the nations of today are unknowingly or knowingly playing their part in a grander divine narrative. Could we be witnessing the stages set for the fulfillment of end times prophecy? How do modern conflicts, peace treaties, and alliances fit into God's greater plan for humanity? Join us on this journey of discovery as we piece together the puzzle of prophecy with modern nations at the center. Discipleship Biblical Narratives will equip you with biblical insights that not only strengthen your faith, but also provide a clearer understanding of how the world we live in is aligning with God's divine will. Stay tuned, because each episode brings us closer to unraveling the mystery of how today's nations are shaping the future according to God's master plan.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Finding India in the Bible. We have come to the end of this episode of Throughout this journey, we've uncovered the fascinating and often overlooked connections between India and biblical prophecy. From the ancient empires that stretched their reach into the Indian subcontinent, to the Apostle Thomas's bold mission to spread the gospel in this land, and even the possibility of King Solomon's legendary wealth being tied to India, the narrative of this nation is deeply intertwined with biblical history. We've explored how India, a land rich in spiritual diversity, plays a vital role in God's unfolding plan for humanity. Its ancient civilizations and vibrant religious traditions may hold keys to understanding future prophetic events, offering a glimpse into how modern nations are part of the divine narrative. As we conclude, we are left with profound questions about India's future in relation to the gospel and the end times. Could this vast and complex nation be one of the final harvest fields before the fulfillment of the Great Commission? Only time will tell. But one thing is clear: India's spiritual and historical significance is woven into the fabric of God's redemptive story. Thank you for joining us on this insightful exploration. Stay tuned to Discipleship Biblical Narratives as we continue to uncover how modern nations play their part in God's ultimate plan